What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews, exclusively here as always on the Casa D18 Studios channel. I, of course, am your host, the Renegade JJ Williams, and today I'm going to be starting the first chapter of the sequel trilogy, 2015's Episode 7, The Force Awakens, starring Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, Oscar Isaac, Adam Driver, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, Andy Serkis, Anthony Daniels, Peter Mayhew, and Mark Hamill. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining me here once again for another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews. And like I said at the top of the show during the intro, today we're going to begin the sequel trilogy with the first chapter of that saga. And some people, it's very much like the prequel trilogy. Either some people love this trilogy and some people hate it. But as I've done the entire saga, I'm going to try to be objective with my thoughts and feelings towards these movies. And let's get into it here, shall we? It's been 30 years since the destruction of the second Death Star and the end of the Galactic Civil War. The First Order has risen out of the ashes of the Galactic Empire, and they seek to destroy the New Republic. The Resistance, which is led by General Leia Organa, is still around to oppose the First Order, all while she searches for her brother, Luke Skywalker, who has been missing for years. Meanwhile, on the desert planet of Jakku, Resistance fighter pilot Poe Dameron is given a piece of a map which leads to Skywalker from Lor San Tekka. An army of stormtroopers commanded by Kylo Ren raid the village and capture Poe, while Ren kills Lor San Tekka. Poe gives the map to his droid, BB-8, who escapes with the map and encounters a native scavenger named Rey. Ren then tortures Poe using the Force and learns of BB-8 in the process. A stormtrooper named FN-2187 has become disillusioned by the First Order, and he decides to free Poe. They steal a TIE fighter and escape. And when Poe discovers that FN-2187 has no other given name, he thinks about, the FN, and he decides to christen him as Finn. They head back to Jakku in order to try to retrieve BB-8, and a First Order Star Destroyer shoots them down, causing them to crash land. Finn survives, but he doesn't see Poe anywhere, so he assumes that he has perished in the crash. Finn runs into Rey and BB-8, but the First Order is tracking them and launches an airstrike. Rey, Finn, and BB-8 find a ship to steal on the outskirts of Jakku there, and the ship just so happens to be none other than the Millennium Falcon. And the three friends escape the planet aboard the ship. The Falcon gets overtaken by Han Solo and Chewbacca, who have been searching for their old ship. A couple of gangs who have outstanding debts with Solo attack, but the quintet is able to escape with the ship intact. Meanwhile, at the First Order's Starkiller base, which is a planet that has been converted into a superweapon, Supreme Leader Snoke allows General Hux to utilize the weapon for the first time, while Snoke questions Kylo Ren's ability to deal with the emotions surrounding his father, Han Solo. Ren states that Han Solo means nothing to him. Once aboard the Falcon, Han realizes the map to Luke that BB-8 is in possession of is incomplete. He then begins to tell of how Luke attempted to rebuild the Jedi Order, but entered into exile when an apprentice of his turned to the dark side, destroyed the temple, and slaughtered all the other apprentices in training. Han and Chewie take Rey, Finn, and BB-8 to the planet of Takodana, where they meet Maz Kanata, who offers to help them get BB-8 to the Resistance. Now, while at Maz's cantina, the Force begins to draw Rey to a vault where she finds a lightsaber. And not just any lightsaber, the lightsaber of Luke and Anakin Skywalker. Rey experiences disturbing visions and flees into the woods, confused and terrified at what she's been seeing. She's Force sensitive at this point, but she has no idea what's going on. So you can imagine all this is like way too much for her to take in at this point in time. So Maz gives Finn the lightsaber to hold on to for safekeeping. Starkiller Base arrives, and it destroys the New Republic and its fleet. The First Order then attacks Takodana in search of BB-8, and Han, Chewie, and Finn are saved by Resistance X-Wing fighters led by none other than Poe Dameron, who did in fact survive the crash. Leia then arrives on Takodana alongside C-3PO and reunites with her estranged husband, Han Solo. Meanwhile, Ren kidnaps Rey and takes her to the Starkiller base, attempting to read her thoughts, but Rey is able to resist. Supreme Leader Snoke then orders Ren to bring Rey to him, but before he can, Rey, sensing that she's able to use the Force, uses the Jedi mind trick in order to evade the lone guard that had been assigned to watch her. At the Resistance base on Dakar, BB-8 discovers R2-D2, who's been in low power mode, basically inactive, ever since Luke disappeared. And as Starkiller Base gets ready to fire again, the Resistance devises a plan to destroy it by attacking its thermal oscillator. Using the Falcon, Han, Chewie, and Finn infiltrate the facility, find Rey, and plant explosives. Han then confronts Ren and addresses him by his birth name, Ben. Han tries to implore him to abandon the dark side, and Ben seems to consider it, at least for a moment. But ultimately, Ren refuses and kills his father. Having just witnessed the murder of his best friend, Chewie shoots at Ren and sets off the explosives, which allows Poe to attack and destroy the thermal oscillator. Ren, who has been injured by Chewie's shot, pursues Rey and Finn into the woods, where Finn uses the lightsaber that Maz gave him to fight Ren and protect Rey before being knocked unconscious himself. Rey then takes the lightsaber and channels the Force in order to defeat Kylo Ren in a lightsaber duel. They are then separated as the planet's surface begins to splinter. Supreme Leader Snoke orders General Hux to evacuate and bring Ren to him in order to complete his training. Chewie is able to rescue Rey and Finn, and they escape aboard the Falcon. And as the Resistance flees, Starkiller Base implodes. R2-D2 awakens and reveals the rest of the map, which will lead to Luke Skywalker. Rey follows the map and takes her to the ocean planet of Ahch-To. And once Rey arrives at Ahch-To, she climbs a stairway to a cliff top where she finds Luke Skywalker, and without a word, she hands him his father's lightsaber. There's a lot going on in The Force Awakens, and most of it I feel is good. It sets up the story while filling in some gaps in the last 30 years. It introduces us to our four main new characters: Finn, Rey, Poe, and Kylo Ren. It does a good job of reestablishing our friends who we haven't seen since Return of the Jedi: Han Solo and Chewie, Luke, Leia, R2 and 3PO. And you get a good, clear sense of what is going to happen in this film, in this trilogy. Very clearly, knowing what we know from the rise, the fall, and the redemption of Anakin Skywalker, which was the first 6 films, this series is very much going to be about the redemption of Kylo Ren. And all those seeds are planted, I feel, very well in this film. I think J.J. Abrams did a great job with the series, with this installment in the series. We all know he didn't do Last Jedi, but then he did come back for Rise of Skywalker. I feel like the planets are very cosmetically nice to look at. At first, when we first get to Jakku, I was like, what? We're back on Tatooine? For real? But then as we went on and we discovered this is a new planet, another desert planet, it was like, oh, okay. Very similar, but still different enough. I love the fact that the lead for this series is a female. You know, a lot of people questioned whether or not a female-led science fiction movie would be something that can draw enough people in, and I think Daisy Ridley did a tremendous job, not just in this film, but over the trilogy here, of portraying Rey and making people care about her and her struggle and finding the answers that she needed to find out about her own hero's journey. You know, John Boyega has become very vocal here in the last couple years about how he wants nothing to do with Star Wars anymore. He refuses to ever go back if they ask him. And while I can't criticize himself for making that statement, you know, he's allowed his own belief structure, his own opinions. I think that the arc that Finn had in the movies was a decent arc. I mean, it was never going to be his story. It was obviously Rey's story. But I felt like he did a great job, especially in this film, of setting up his journey and where he would go. I'll talk in Rise of Skywalker a little bit more about that. But I think that all in all, this was a great jump off point for a brand new trilogy. You know, when it comes to my rating of this film, I give The Force Awakens 4 out of 5 stars. I greatly enjoy this film, and my only complaint about this trilogy is that I wish J.J. Abrams had done The Last Jedi as well. That way, the whole story would have been, you know, his story, and not having the second act belong to somebody else. That's the only thing that I would change here in the opening segments of this trilogy. Let's make sure we get out there on the internet. Try to get those hashtags trending for me. Hashtag Casa D18 Studios, hashtag Renegades Reviews, hashtag Renegade Returns, and of course the ever popular hashtag Shenanigans. We interrupt this episode of Renegades Reviews for an important announcement about
merchandising.
Merchandising? What's that?
Merchandising. Come, I'll show you. Merchandising, where the real money's made.
Make sure you go over to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network for all the t-shirts you see here from the West Coast professor, Jeff Meacham himself. You can get shirts for the Jeff Meacham Network, Talk Wrestling, as well as the red and gold Meachamania shirts. And while you're there, don't forget to get your shirts of the Casa D18 Studios Brotherhood, the Dads on Wrestling shirt, the Renegade JJ Williams, Statboy Sports Bar, and the hashtag StatBoyApproved shirt. Make sure you go over to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network and score your shirts today. Make sure you get out there, do what that commercial just told you. Go to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network for all your official merchandise of the Casa D18 Studios Brotherhood. Get you your Renegade JJ Williams shirt, Dad's Not Always on Wrestling, Statboy Sports Bar, hashtag StatBoyApproved, hashtag Shenanigans shirts. Get you your official shirts for the Jeff Meacham Network. 3 different designs of the Jeff Meacham Network logo on t-shirts for you to choose from, along with Meachamania, Talk Wrestling, and so much more. Tomorrow, right back here on the Casa D18 Studios channel, make sure you tune in for another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews when I tackle 2017's The Last Jedi, Episode 8, starring Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, Oscar Isaac, Adam Driver, Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Andy Serkis, Anthony Daniels, Junice Suotamo, Laura Dern, Benicio del Toro, and Frank Oz. You're not going to want to miss what I have to say about the second chapter of the sequel trilogy, The Last Jedi. Thank you to all my loyal viewers who've been watching during the premiere, leaving your comments right over here. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you to all my loyal viewers who watch this on demand later in the day, leaving me your comments right down here. Once again, I greatly appreciate each and every one of you. Until tomorrow when I tackle The Last Jedi, thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys next time, and may the Force be with you.